let's talk about one of the greatest challenges we face, that is poverty. It is a force that silently destroys our lives. It silently destroys our hopes. It silently destroys our dreams. Now, let me share a paradox. India is rich. Our country is rich, but Indians are poor. We are a nation of immense wealth, natural resources, and intellectual capital. Yet, a significant part of our population remains trapped in poverty. Poverty doesn't just deprive people of material comfort, it strips away dignity, opportunity, and the very essence of what makes us human. Poverty is not some distant concept. It is not something that happens by accident. It's not inevitable part of life, just like slavery and oppression. Poverty is man-made. It is created by system, it is created by policies, and it is created by structures. And because of that, it can be unmade. It can be overcome through the deliberate actions of individuals and communities. We are not helpless in that fight. We are the generation that has the power to end poverty once and for all. Poverty is the thief of dreams, robbing people of their ability to realize their full potential. It is the parent of revolution and crime, pushing people to the edge, to a place where survival becomes a daily struggle. It's not just a condition of lack, it's an assault on human dignity. It's the worst form of violence, a violence that is silent but ever present. Poverty is a form of suffering that we may not always see, but it exists in every corner of the world. Here in India, we see it in the faces of millions of children who go to bed hungry. We see it in the eyes of workers who toil for hours but still cannot afford a decent meal. We see it in families who lack basic health care, clean water, or shelter. Hunger makes a thief of any man. When someone is desperate for survival, even the most moral among us can be driven to desperate actions. The deepest wound of poverty is the feeling of being unwanted, unloved, uncared for. In the wealthiest societies, it is not hunger or disease that afflict people most, but loneliness and neglect. A world in which people feel unwanted is a world in which poverty is not only of the body, but of the spirit. Yet, poverty is not a reflection of someone's character. It is not a moral failing or a personal flaw. It is simply a lack of resources. Too often, we are quick to blame the poor for their situation, when in reality, it is the systems around them that have failed to provide the support and opportunities necessary for a better life. No one chooses to be poor, and no one deserves the cruelty that poverty brings. The task before us is clear. We must change the systems that perpetuate poverty. We must ensure that freedom, true freedom, exists for everyone. The function of freedom is not just to liberate oneself, but to free someone else. We are only as strong as the weakest among us, and no nation is stronger than its most vulnerable citizens. If we want to build a stronger India, a stronger world, we must start by lifting those who have the least. What kind of society do we want to be? A society is judged by how it treats its weakest members. And if we wish to progress, our measures of success should not be how much we add to the wealth of the rich, but whether we have provided enough for those who have too little. This is not just about charity or compassion. It's about building a society where every person can realize their full potential. Poverty holds back. Poverty holds back not just individuals but entire communities, entire nations. It traps talent, it traps innovation, and it traps progress behind invisible walls. Imagine the world we could create if everyone had the chance to thrive. Ending poverty is not a utopian dream. It's possible. It's possible and it's urgent. None of us can rest while poverty, inequality, and injustice persist. The struggle against poverty is a struggle for freedom, for dignity. It's a struggle for freedom, it's a struggle for dignity, and it's a struggle for the future. Wars of nations may change maps, but the war against poverty will map change for humanity. This is a fight that defines our generation. Let's remember this. We don't need to wait a single moment to start improving the world. Every action we take, no matter how small, it can be a step toward ending poverty. Whether it's advocating for better policies, or supporting local business, creating jobs, or simply extending a hand to someone in need. We all have the power to make a difference. So I want you to think about the concept of Ubuntu, which means humanity to others. This is African philosophy that teaches us that we are only true humans through our connection with others. I am because you are. This is the essence of humanity. That my freedom, my well-being, my success, these are all tied to yours. All mine are tied to yours. If we wish to live in just, peaceful, and prosperous world, we must ensure that everyone has the opportunity to live in dignity. So today, let us commit ourselves to this fight. Let us challenge the system that keep people in poverty. Let us lift up those who have been left behind. Let us ensure that every person in this country, in this world, has the chance to dream, chance to build, and chance to live a life of meaning. We have the power. We are the first generation that can end poverty, and I believe we will end poverty. Poverty is the word that conjures up images of hardship, struggle, and survival. Poverty is the default condition of man. According to the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, the natural state of man is one of continual fear and danger of violent death. And the life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This grim description reminds us of a fundamental fact. We are born with nothing, we die with nothing. And in between, we gather whatever we can. Some are exceptional at gathering resources, others are only marginally good, and many struggle throughout their lives. Poverty is relative. What is considered poverty in some countries, like the United States, would be seen as extraordinary wealth in parts of Asia, Africa, South America. So, not only is poverty less severe than it once was, but what we define as poverty changes depending on where we are in the world. Politicians always come into power by saying the slogan, Garibi Hatao. Politicians always come into power with slogan saying Garibi Hatao, which means eradicate poverty. It was a powerful message, and to some extent, but it is resonated. But let's not fool ourselves. Many of those who were supposed to uplift the poor found ways to enrich themselves. Investigations into corrupt leaders uncovered crores of rupees hidden in homes, and assets of public officials mysteriously multiplied over a few years. For instance, a businessman in Gujarat, he declared his assets in millions, and just 5 years later, that figure skyrocketed to billions, became one of the richest person in the world. Where did this wealth come from? This is the world we live in. We began with the street vendors trying to make a honest living. Yet we spend freely in upscale stores without bargaining an art. Our attitude contributes to widening gap between the rich and the poor. And politicians, entrepreneurs, seeing this, they exploit it to their advantage. But poverty at its core is caused by low productivity. The poor have fewer resources when goods are expensive or resources are scarce. People fall into poverty. It's time we should rise above our natural state of poverty. Humans must cooperate, plan, and sacrifice. History shows us that societies that stick to this formula, where governments protects but doesn't control every aspect of life, maximize wealth and minimize poverty. Escaping poverty requires more than just government action. It requires a change in mindset. It requires personal responsibility, and it requires a society that values productivity, cooperation, and fair trade. Poverty isn't going to vanish overnight, but we can keep pushing forward. We can continue to make progress, lifting one person, one family, and one community at a time. That is how. That is how we will truly eradicate poverty, not through slogans, but through actions, through innovation, and through the strength of a united, determined people. Poverty has become a challenge that has long burdened all our nation. But poverty is not a permanent condition. It can be overcome. And the path to overcoming it lies within each of us and within the systems that govern our lives. Just think about that. A mere fraction of our people abroad have managed to generate as much wealth as all of us here. How is that possible? How did they achieve such success? Look at the Indian American. They are the wealthiest ethnic group in America. They are senators, CEOs, professors, leaders in technology, business, and politics. Indians are thriving abroad, but that leads us to an important question. If Indians are so successful outside India, why not within India? The answer is simple. The answer is simple, that is freedom. That's the difference. The freedom to dream, the freedom to innovate, the freedom to build, the freedom to create something extraordinary. You see, the freedom that our fellow Indians found abroad is the same freedom that has been limited here at home. Yes, we gained independence from British rule, but did that freedom truly reach every citizen? The reality is, it didn't. It didn't reach every citizen of India. We are still governed by system and structures designed to control and extract, not to uplift and empower. Look at the way our governance is structured. From the Rajya Sabha at the national level to the office of the governor in the states, and even down to the district commissioner. Each one is an agent of control. The Rajya Sabha, for an instance, was supposed to protect the interests of the states, but it's become a tool for the government to derail legislation that doesn't serve its interests. The same goes for the Vidhan Parishad and the governor's office which often act as an extension of the central government rather than a defender of the people's will. We dread interaction with the police and the courts because the system has failed to deliver justice. It has failed to deliver trust. The deep divide between the government and the people is undeniable. The government sees the citizens as a lawbreaker, a tax evader. And what do the people see? Corruption, inefficiency, and ministers who seem to be looting the country rather than building it. This is the system. This is the system we have inherited. A system that was never designed for the kind of rapid and inclusive economic growth we need today. But here is the thing, we know what works. We have seen it with our own eyes. Look at what happened after the economic reforms of the 1990s. India's economy took off, growing faster than ever before. 300 million people came out of poverty. So what does that tell us? It tells us that freedom works. When people are given the right environment, they thrive. When they are free to innovate, free to create, free to build, remarkable things happen. The success of Indian American abroad and the success of India's economy post 1990 reforms are not isolated stories. They are connected. They show us what Indians are capable of when they have the right conditions to grow. But we cannot expect the system that exists today to deliver that kind of growth again. We need a system that is pro-citizen, not pro-state. States should have more power, more independence, just like in the US. Imagine a system where there is no buying and selling of elected representatives, no more manipulations from above. And at the national level, the government should focus on core areas: defense, foreign affairs, currency, and the judiciary. Everything else should be in the hands of the people and their states. Let it be a government by the people, for the people, as it was always meant to be. But even with the best system, nothing will change if we the people don't honor it. Democracy is not about waiting for a savior to lead us. It's about you and me. It's about ordinary people having a say in their own governance, participating in their own development. When that happens, when we take responsibility for our future, India will grow rapidly, inclusively, and sustainably.